As soon as the boy tore open the whale's stomach, he was stunned for 3 seconds because inside the whale's stomach there was a girl holding a sword. Indeed, the queen's point was that the girl was still alive. But this made Starn even more uneasy because the girl might not have been human. Therefore, he asked Julian to keep an eye on her. He went off to gather some information himself. However, Julian was scared. But upon seeing the girl's innocent face, that boy, who had remained a virgin for 18 years, began to blush with shame. He started daydreaming that when the girl woke up she would become his wife because he had saved her life. He was even dreaming of having 11 children and them winning the World Cup. Then suddenly the girl woke up. Julian, stammering, wanted to tell her that he had saved her. But the girl cut him off in the middle and asked his name. After learning Julian's name, she respectfully called him Master. And she asked him to give her a name. Then Julian realized that perhaps the girl's memory had faded. Looking at the girl with hopeful eyes, Julian began to think about what name would be appropriate. Then his gaze fell upon the bracelet hanging near the bed. So he named her Carnelian because her eyes were like that gemstone. She had no idea that this small act of naming the girl would completely change both of their destinies. Then Starn rushed in. Julian warned that the girl should not be given any name because, according to an old book, she was of the seal species. They were imprisoned in different places around the world. Only powerful forces could awaken them. If any tamer gives them a name, an unbreakable pact forms between them. She looks like a human, but her strength is far greater than that of humans. She only obeys her tamer. When her tamer dies, she becomes dormant. Then she falls back into a deep sleep. But Stern was already too late. As soon as the scars on the massive sword began to glow, the blade pulsed with energy. Carnelian knelt and regarded Julian as her master. Stern watched the scene helplessly. Meanwhile, poor Julian was punished for no reason. But Stern is concerned about this. Stern thought that he had never heard of a seal being found in the belly of any beast. However, it was certain that Carnelian was a high-level seal that possessed a weapon, and its power was far greater than an army of thousands of soldiers. Carnelian laughed and said, "You are underestimating me. Thousands wouldn't even be enough to bite my teeth. Destroying a country is a trivial game for me." And there was no sense of connection between the two. Carnelian didn't feel at all that Julian was her tamer. "I don't understand how a cook like you could awaken me." Julian was offended and immediately turned, saying, "I already told you that you woke up yourself." "I did not bind you," Julian said. Then Stern replied, "Then the master can change them." They could have entrusted Carnelian to someone else who could be her tamer. Julian was very happy with this solution. In this way, he could escape this misfortune, but Carnelian had. He asked the queen, "Is there really any warrior in this small village?" "No one there, but the owner of the village is a lord." So Stern summoned the lord's foolish son, Trump. At the sight of Carnelian, he fell under her beauty spell. Staring at her with fascination, drool began to drip from his mouth. After looking at her from head to toe, he was very pleased with Carnelian's beauty and stature. In greed, he extended his hand forward and immediately wanted to give her a name. But Carnelian brushed him off because her temperament was still aligned with Julian, and no one could touch her without permission. Trump also became slightly irritated. His lazy move upset Julian. He fled and was such a warrior truly worthy of trust. Then Trump shouted at him, "What are you standing there looking at? Quickly start the process of changing the master." So Julian allowed him to give Carnelian a name first. After pondering with his pig-like brain for 2 minutes, Trump excitedly told Carnelian, "Your new name will be Castilla." But nobody liked this name except her. The others asked, "Do you really think that?" And now, if Julian's approval is obtained, the process of changing the owner can be completed. But Julian looked at Carnelian to ascertain whether she wanted to become Trump's servant. Carnelian showed no hesitation. Instead, she promptly urged to begin the owner-changing process. Julian had no option but to consent. Finally, a knight was far better than a cook. At that moment, Carnelian suddenly lowered her head. Trump thought that he was bowing to her. He reached out his hand and stroked Carnelian's cheek so that he could see his upcoming new toy clearly. But the very next moment, Carnelian brushed him off and irritated said, "Keep your dirty hands away from me." "You are a fool, it seems. My name is still Carnelian." In fact, Julian's power was very weak. He couldn't even give the order to change the master. Then how did trash like you manage to convey it? But even Carnelian didn't know the reason. But at that moment, she felt relief because she would no longer be called by the dreadful name Castilla. But how could Trump let such a huge prey escape? So he drew a thin and long weapon. He was ready to kill Julian. "After all, you are a vile person. If peace is not obtained, we will take it by force." Dying by his sword would be an honor for Julian. But just as he was about to strike, Carnelian made her moves. Kaz Trump's head immediately moved from its place. "Because you think that dying is an honor, so go die," she said and proudly sheathed her large sword. "I am not wrong, it's not my fault." Until now, Julian was trembling with fear. Seeing the frightened Julian, Carnelian teased, "You've seen my master die for the first time. If you want to stay with me, then you'll have to get used to such incidents." Seeing Carnelian approach, Julian began to retreat and said, "Don't come near me." Carnelian said calmly, "No seal will harm its master." "Stay calm, you are weak. Even so, you are my master. If you die, it will be a problem for me." Kaz Trump's guards surrounded them. They drew their swords and began to capture Carnelian. But Carnelian reminded them, "Right now, you don't have time to deal with me." Then everyone saw that the seal, which originally belonged to Kaz Trump, had suddenly become abnormal. One of them even screamed in fear. "The seal's connection has broken. We must quickly kill the seal." But before he could speak, a long sword fell onto his bald head. After that, she began a seal slaughter. And no one can stop him. The atmosphere got even worse when another seal's connection began to loosen. A guard took advantage of the situation and tried to kill him. But a powerful aura threw him 2 meters away. Julian was very confused about why they were fighting each other. Carnelian explained that when their master dies, the seals lose their ability to think and understand, and they start randomly attacking the people around them. This is called a loosening connection. Julian remembered that Carnelian had previously said that if Julian died, she would get into trouble. That meant that she would also lose her connection. When Julian asked if there was any way to stop it, there was none. So Carnelian explained that after some time, the seals' minds returned to normal. But by then, many people would have already been killed. Before anyone could react, both seals eliminated all the guards. Now their next target was the poor Julian. Just as a sword was about to strike Julian, Carnelian easily blocked the strike with her large sword. Both disconnected seals began to glare at him angrily. Carnelian said that although she does not want to fight seals of her own kind, she must because they want to kill her master. Therefore, she has no choice but to kill them. Carnelian continues speaking. "That you want to kill my master, and that is why I have no choice." She kills a seal by declaring that you must die. Carnelian used a simple sword draw technique and split the second seal directly into 2 parts. Julian was in deep shock after seeing all this. Even if he had killed millions of foes before, he had never felt such fear. The villagers are there. They wondered how this woman could make such a high jump. And in a single strike, she piled up the powerful seal. Then someone shouted and told that it is Julian's seal. Seeing corpses and blood everywhere, Julian's head started to spin. He started to vomit. Carnelian came to him. He asked if he was okay. Julian slowly raised his head. He thanked Carnelian, but Carnelian clarified so that he wouldn't remain in misunderstanding. Carnelian saved Julian because if the master died, a high-level seal keeper like Carnelian, when it loses its connection, would unleash an even more horrific devastation. Carnelian let out a cold sigh. He said how useless and cowardly his master is. He doesn't even know how to give the command to change the seal's master. Julian just kept apologizing to him. After 2.5 hours, there was a little peace in the village. The villagers themselves started the cleanup. They packed the corpses and called Symmetry's one-stop cleanup service. Then Starn arrived there. He asked about their upcoming plans. Carnelian asked angrily what the need for a plan is. Stern says you have killed the Lord's foolish son and the seals. How can he ignore it? Carnelian didn't care. He said that if the regional lord sent his entire army, he would finish them off in less than a minute. Stern said irritated, "I'm not asking how quickly you will kill, I mean. If you destroy the army, an even larger army from neighboring states and imperial troops will arrive." Carnelian said, "Such a big army for the son of a minor lord. It seems they are quite free. If the state's army does come, it'll just take me 2 days." But Julian interrupted in the middle and said that if that happened, every person in the village would be killed. A question was echoing in Julian's mind. If this world operates on survival of the fittest, then what is unnatural about it? Unintentionally, he also clenched his fists, and with a slight hesitation, said that no one deserves to die merely because they are weak. Carnelian raised his hand upon hearing this and pointed toward the village. He said that when the pig was alive, Julian hadn't said such things. He asked whether Julian thought that if the circumstances were reversed, he would spare the pig. According to him, Julian has not only a weakness in strength, but also a weakness of the heart. Then Carnelian snarkily asked what his master would do next. while everyone was unsure of what to do. Then Julian suddenly said that he would go to the Lord himself, explain everything, and ask for forgiveness for this incident. Upon hearing this naive idea, Carnelian laughed. Then he asked what exactly he would explain. Would he say that he killed the Lord's son and still ask for forgiveness? He said that if Julian were the Lord himself, would he accept such an apology? Julian replied that even if it isn't easy, how would they know without trying? Meanwhile, Stern interrupted both of them and said that he would go himself to explain. But Stern, with full confidence, said that he could explain everything clearly. Be it the matter of changing the master or the fight, everything was a compulsion of that time. According to him, going to him rather than Julian would be more appropriate for him. In just a short while, evening fell. Carnelian stood silently in front of the graves of 2 dead seals. A slight sadness was reflected in his eyes, which perhaps no one else could see. Just then, Julian arrived there. Carnelian immediately hid his emotions and calmly asked what he wanted to say. Julian happily reported that Stern had returned. Carnelian couldn't believe it, he did. He asked the Lord if he truly came back alive, and whether he returned with his entire body. His head and hands and legs are still attached, or not. Stern lived up to expectations and delivered good news. But it was also stated that forgiveness would be accepted only when they themselves go and ask for forgiveness. Julian, upon hearing this, became happy like a child and said that he had already known that he would persuade Stern Lord. But Carnelian was still in doubt. She said that it is strange for things to be settled just by an apology. Because in this world, which madman would so easily accept the apology of his child's murderer? Stern Lord accused Carnelian of having an overly extreme way of thinking. He asked whether she had only seen the ugly side of humanity in her thousands of years of life. Carnelian replied in a cold tone that she is not interested in such ridiculous things. Julian immediately put on a serious face and begged her to go with them. Seeing this, Carnelian let out a helpless sigh and said that she would obey the master's command. So we will have to accept. Thus the two rode on a small mattress and set off overnight towards Stern Lord's castle. When they stopped to rest on the way, Julian learned something. It turned out that Carnelian does not need food to stay alive. She explained that the surrounding energy is her food. Exactly like plants do photosynthesis. This strange piece of information filled Julian's mind with many questions. Carnelian, exhausted, said that she doesn't need to understand all this. But as soon as she saw Julian happily eating the spicy strips, she immediately snatched them away. Julian protested, saying that he doesn't need to eat. So why is she taking the spicy strips? She also said that they have her saliva on them. And what would this be like? Before she could finish speaking, Carnelian spat out the spicy strips. Julian took more spicy strips out of his bag, and while continuing the conversation, began asking her about her previous master. But Carnelian suddenly fell silent. After about 2 minutes of silence, she asked Julian if he knew the meaning of privacy. Julian said that he was hearing this word for the first time. He asked whether it is a magic spell. Carnelian replied that yes, it is such a spell. It prevents others from looking into her emotions. And that spell has already been cast on him. She told Julian not to ask any more questions, eat his spicy strips and go to sleep. Having said that, she turned to get ready for bed. Julian fell into a deep sleep. He didn't know that Carnelian, having turned her back on him, couldn't sleep because of such overwhelming emotions. The next day, both finally reached Stern Lord's castle. A servant came to fetch them, but as soon as he saw the large sword in Carnelian's hand, he tried to take it away and said that according to the rules, bringing weapons inside is forbidden. Carnelian glared at him angrily and said that the one who last touched her sword has met his ancestor. He asked the servant whether he really wanted to touch it. Fearful, the servant immediately pulled his hand back. Julian quickly tried to persuade Carnelian to obey the rule, but he flatly declined. Carnelian said plainly that if he couldn't bring his sword inside, Julian should go alone and ask for forgiveness. Seeing him so determined, the servant finally had to make a concession. He immediately ran inside to report. About 2 minutes later, he returned smiling. Both were told that the Lord had granted permission to bring the sword inside. When both reached inside the palace, they finally met the Lord who had been waiting for them already. Several servants were standing around him. Julian politely bowed to the Lord. The Lord said with a sad and cold expression that he had become aware of their entire incident. Upon hearing this, Julian immediately knelt down. He said that we had come to apologize for his son. But the Lord gave no response. He simply waved his hand, indicating Julian to come closer. Julian moved slowly towards him. Carnelian's gaze remained fixed on Julian continuously. He was looking at this. The Lord realized that he was hearing the matter so easily. But Julian was moving very slowly. Suddenly, the Lord stood up and quickly moved towards Julian. In the next moment, he grabbed Julian's neck and lifted him into the air. The Lord said in a cold voice, "So this is Julian." As soon as he said this, he gave the order. The servants standing behind him immediately started taking action. They surrounded Carnulin and began casting sealing magic. It was then revealed that those servants were actually disguised magicians. They started chanting the mantra. Suddenly, a chain materialized in the air and tightly bound Carnulin. As the chains tightened, pain clearly became visible on Carnulin's face. At that time, both Julian and Carnulin were completely under the Lord's control. Then the Lord told Julian a truth that broke him from within. The Lord said that Stern had already claimed that if the village could be saved, everything else would be fine. So everything else is fine. As far as Julian was concerned, he was indebted to the village. Being an orphan, he should repay the debt of the village's upbringing by giving his life. The Lord, with sarcasm, said that despite being born in such a poor and remote area, Stern turned out to be quite clever. Saying this, he threw Julian hard onto the ground. Julian slipped about 2 meters and fell unconscious there. The Lord called him a fool and asked how he dared to come here on his own. Now the Lord was about to complete his plan. First seal Carnulin, then take Julian's life. But then Carnulin's anger erupted. He said that he had already known that this would happen. He mocked that understanding a rustic lord's mindset is not a difficult task. The Lord, still in arrogance, said that after the sealing is complete, he will finish everything. But he could not even finish his sentence. Carnulin halted him midway and shattered 2 chains. He coldly inquired if he was talking about these subpar items. The next instant, a tremendous energy surged from his great sword, causing all remaining chains to snap. He stated that attempting to bind him with such inexpensive tricks was folly. As the sword's tip struck the ground, the engraved magical runes upon it began to glow. The explosion of terrifying energy caused every magician nearby to leap backward and collapse unconscious on the spot. Witnessing this left the Lord utterly stunned. He panicked, asking, "How is this possible? And why isn't he following his script?" Carnulin tauntingly remarked, "Have you finally grasped the realization now?" He said that when his pig-like son died, he should have foreseen this outcome. Nevertheless, the Lord did not give up and immediately summoned his secret weapon. But at that moment, Carnulin lifted his great sword and threw it toward the dark corner behind the Lord. In an incredible manner, the sword dispatched someone. Carnulin sarcastically asked if that tiny mouse was his secret weapon. The moment the secret weapon died, genuine fear began to appear on the Lord's face. Carnulin said that the true fool is now plainly evident. After that, he began to chant a spell. All the surrounding energy, being drawn, started flowing toward his body. Now the Lord realized that the figure standing before him was no ordinary seal. Moreover, there was a creature that was proficient in both physical and magical combat. Carnulin said a single word, "disappear," in a very calm tone. In the next moment, a massive energy explosion erupted towards the sky. The entire palace began to shake. With a powerful blast, the Lord's entire fortress turned into rubble. When Julian regained consciousness, he found himself under Carnulin's protection. But he was startled by the scene before him. He nervously asked, "Where is the Lord?" Carnulin raised his hand and pointed in a direction. There were only ruins there. Seeing this, Julian was completely astonished. After this incident, Julian grew a little older. He asked whether Carnulin had known from the beginning that it was a trap. Carnulin replied calmly. He said that just as the son was, his father was also not a good person. According to him, letting such people go alive would only cause more trouble later. So he advised Julian to abandon pointless mercy. Having said that, Carnulin's face suddenly hardened. He began to prepare to leave because there was still another person to deal with. That night, people in Fishing Village were discussing among themselves. Julian himself couldn't understand why he was preparing to kill Stern. Weren't they so close that they would even share each other's underwear? Then suddenly Carnulin said, while speaking, that he permits Stern to say his last 2 words. Stern closed his eyes. It was as if he had already accepted his demise. Nevertheless, he said the very thing that made Carnulin laugh a lot. He said that to save the village, he had no other choice. Hearing this, Julian, who always gives a slow response, was completely shocked. He said that Carnulin never said that he would kill Stern. He also added that Stern had no other way but to do that for the sake of the village. In response, Carnulin asked Julian whether he would have done the same if he were in Stern's place. He said there was no choice, just as excuses are only to lighten one's guilty conscience. And this is extremely disgusting. Julian couldn't reply upon hearing this because he knew he never does such a thing. But still, he didn't want Stern to lose his life because of it. He stepped forward, shoved Karnalin's great sword, and as his master begged it to spare Stern. But Karnalin's sword still bowed in shame, drawing toward the standing Stern. He said that human nature is selfish. Then he asked Julian whether he wasn't curious to learn about his past. According to him, humans have polluted his body and soul a long time ago. Then he accepts this truth for himself, that perhaps becoming like humans is not that bad. If humans live in selfishness and hypocrisy, then it is understandable. Then he can also live in that same filth before dying. To put it plainly, that man is completely broken from the inside. Now he feels no fear or shame even in considering himself fallen, because humans have already made him that way. When Karnalin, while bringing out the secret hidden in his heart, broke the secret magic seal, Julian gently took his hand. He said that even if he does not know what Karnalin has endured, but he will never do that with her. He promised that he would help her and told her to trust him. Hearing this, Karnalin stayed silent for a while. Then she sighed helplessly, but in the next moment his tone suddenly changed. He said, "Okay, she will not kill Stern." Then sarcastically, she said how embarrassing it was to whine like that in front of her master. She almost died of embarrassment. Upon hearing this, Stern's heart filled with regret, and he thanked her with a heavy heart. Julian also decided to forgive Stern. He said that he still cannot believe that Stern betrayed him, but he believes that Stern was truly thinking about the village. Then Karnalin suddenly asked Julian if he had mentioned helping. Julian replied that he didn't know exactly what he could do, but whatever is within his capability, he will try his best. To this, Karnalin demanded that he become a knight first. Then he would have to find a rich and outstanding knight mold master for him. Julian found this strange to hear, but he thought it was somewhat reasonable. Karnalin, looking into the distance, said that they would have to go to the city first. She said that after reaching there, the paths would appear on their own. Then Stern told them that a merchant is returning to the city the next day. They can leave in his carriage. He also promised to prepare for their long journey. But Karnalin did not give any particular response. She left from there without acknowledging Stern. Only Julian turned back to look, but Stern stood with his head bowed in shame. No one knew that this farewell would never give them a chance to meet again. The next morning, Karnalin wore new clothes. She herself was feeling good, but she was a little dissatisfied with Julian. He asked why she had brought so much stuff. Julian proudly said that humans are different from animals, and they have to prepare many things. Just then, with a tap-tap sound, the merchant's carriage arrived in front of them and stopped. Karnalin asked the merchant where there are the most knights. She also made it clear that they should be proper knights. After thinking for a while, the merchant suggested that they go to Beersheba, because a royal duel was to take place there in a week. He explained that in the royal duel, knights fight in front of the king. They try to kill each other to draw the king's attention. These words frightened the merchant himself, because if the knights had heard this, a major problem would have arisen. But Colonel Karnalin had no fear of the so-called knights. She said contemptuously, "What could be worse? A single sword will end everything." The merchant tried to lighten the atmosphere, so he suggested that they travel by ship. This way they could reach Beersheba before the duel began. Thus Karnalin and Julian, along with the merchant, proceeded toward the dock. But all along, Julian's face was downcast. He said he hadn't expected to suddenly leave the village where he was born and raised. After hearing that, the colonel fell into contemplation. Then she said that separations always come without notice. But again, doubts appeared on Julian's face. He did not understand her words at all. Seeing that, Karnalin became a little awkward. She did not think that conversation would be so difficult. Then, comforting him, she said that he should just see it as a journey. Karnalin explained to Julian that once a way to change the master in the city is found, he could return to his little village. After hearing this, Julian became somewhat calm. Soon both reached the port. But upon arriving, they discovered that there was no space left on any ship. The next ship would not return until after the royal duel ended. Upon hearing this, Karnalin calmly suggested that they could knock out some people and quietly board the ship. But Julian immediately vetoed the idea. Then Karnalin leisurely asked whether they should hijack the whole ship instead. Hearing this, cold sweat broke out on Julian's forehead. He panicked and said he didn't mean that at all and was asking them not to do such outrageous things. At the same moment, Julian heard nearby people talking among themselves. They were saying that Lord Castro's castle had suddenly disappeared. Upon hearing this, Julian whispered to Karnalin that they should keep a low profile and quietly leave from here. When neither of them had any solution left, a man stepped toward them. He politely said he had accidentally overheard their conversation and asked if they needed a ship to go to Beersheba. He told them there were 2 empty slots on his ship for going to Beersheba. Just as Julian was about to say yes, Carnaloon glared at the man and asked how this was possible. He pointed out that all the ship owners here claimed there was no space. He then asked how the man could still let them board. The man got flustered and warned that if they rejected his goodwill, then he would have nothing to do. Then Julian intervened and said that they needed to reach Belcia before the royal duel starts. He asked if they could see the ship first. Upon hearing this, the man became happy and said they could, but they would have to decide quickly. He also said that finding a ship heading to Belcia at this time is as difficult as breaking a star. After Julian's explanation, the tired and irritable Carnaloon had to go with him. She herself couldn't understand whether Julian should be called kind or foolish. But what she considered merely a doubt was about to be proven true soon. That man was actually Benny, a member of a smuggling crew. In his eyes, Julian and Carnaloon had now become prey. At that time, Carnaloon had absolutely no desire to board the smuggler's ship. But Benny told them that on his ship, men and women must stay separate. Both became awkward upon hearing this. Julian immediately clarified that their relationship was not like that, just as Benny thought. But Benny, with a mischievous smile looking at Carnaloon, said that they still hadn't defined their relationship. This made the atmosphere even more awkward. After that, Benny escorted them to their rooms. While taking Julian to his room, he kept turning back to look at Carnaloon smugly. Upon reaching his room, Julian noticed that everyone present looked very tired and sad. Suddenly, the door slammed shut, startling Julian. He tried to open the door, but a man outside said the doors would remain closed until the ship departs. He also said that this ship is not registered. That means if someone on board disappears, no one will even know. Hearing this, Julian realized he might have been trapped in a human trafficking ring that had become a legend. The first thing that came to his mind was Carnaloon. He tried frantically to break the door but failed. Then his eyes fell on a box kept nearby. He lifted the box, broke the door lock, and immediately went out to look for Carnaloon. But even after searching all the rooms, he couldn't find Carnaloon anywhere. Then suddenly, there was a loud rumbling on the ship. Julian immediately felt that something had gone very wrong. He ran to the deck, silently praying that he wouldn't damage Carnaloon's ship, otherwise they wouldn't be able to reach Belcia. As soon as he reached the deck, he saw Carnaloon happily waving her hand toward him. She jokingly said she hadn't expected her commander to be so bold as to break the door and run away. She also asked whether Julian had come to save her. Julian immediately said he had come to stop her. Hearing that, Carnaloon was hurt. She asked whether Julian really thought she would destroy the ship. She feared she might destroy the ship. Then she clarified that she had only found something strange. On investigation, she thought those people might be human traffickers. Therefore, she took action. Then Benny pushed his way out of the crowd and shouted that those people were not human traffickers. At that same time, those people also emerged from the cabin. They were being brought in secretly. Instead of thanking Bernie, the people started accusing him. They said how heartless he is, and they described what was done to the crew. These accusations came suddenly and Bernie couldn't understand. Then the truth emerged. In fact, Bernie and his crew were portraying these people as a contraband band. They paid them very little and quietly took them to Belvaceba. This was because the Empire of Belvaceba had very strict screening for poor people. Upon learning the truth, both Julian and Bernie felt guilty. But fortune favored Bernie as he didn't escalate the situation further. In the end, he hadn't told them anything before either. However, now Bernie had become extremely curious about their identity. Carnaloon quickly identified herself, saying that she is a seal of Part 2. And Julian is an apprentice knight. She emphasized specifically that Julian is only an apprentice knight. He is going to Belvaceba for some necessary work. He looked at Bernie and said, "As far as I can see, this knight certainly looks a bit foolish, but his strength is real." But then Bernie interrupted, asking if they didn't know that special ships are prepared for knights during the royal duel. They get free private rooms and all kinds of high-end cuisine. Upon hearing this, Carnaloon was completely shocked. She said that this is a very good deal, and if she had known earlier, she would have turned Julian into a proper knight from the very beginning. Then Bernie reminded both that there is no such facility on their ship, and the chaos they caused, they will have to pay its price. Julian quickly explained that he had already spent all the money at the fair. Hearing this, Bernie tilted his head and smiled. He said that if they don't have money, then they can try another way. 2 hours later, Julian was cooking something seriously in a large pot. Meanwhile, Carnaloon had become a waitress. The crew members were eating whale legs with pleasure. Carnaloon was advising them to eat slowly and told them that if the whale ran out, she would catch more. It was only after a long time that Carnaloon got a chance to rest. The crew members were talking among themselves that they had eaten such delicious food after a long time. They were also saying that an apprentice knight being such a good cook is really amazing. Hearing this, Carnelon filled with anger. She said that Julian can't do other tasks, but cooking is the only thing he is good at. That's all he can do. Then she calmed herself and asked Bernie if all that was enough to compensate for their mistake. But Bernie outright refused and said that this is still not enough. Carnelon was about to get angry because Bernie cheerfully said that a little entertainment is also necessary after eating and drinking. After that, everyone began wrestling with Carnelon. However, it was clear that they were getting themselves into trouble. After 2.5 days, the ship finally reached Belvaseba. Having said goodbye to Bernie, both reached the Balling Market District. Julian had come to a big city for the first time. Therefore, he sees everything as big. He was watching the Queen. He got so absorbed in the new surroundings that he began teasing Carnelon. She reminded him again that he must behave like a knight. In the end, Bernie said that here knights get food and drink for free. But Julian didn't hear what he said at all. He suddenly points forward. He looked at the Queen. A beastman was standing there. It was a creature Julian had never seen before. Seeing this, Carnelon got angry. She said that when she is speaking, Julian should listen carefully. Then she steadied herself while patiently explaining, because it was Julian's first time seeing a beastman. He told that Augs are one of the other races. They were not that calm-natured in the beginning, but humans captured them and trained them. And it wasn't just the Augs. Humans had long ago captured fairies, cave joints, and other races and started using them like slaves. Upon hearing this, Julian suddenly stopped. He felt that humans had become very cruel. Then suddenly the whole street began to tremble. The people nearby got startled, and they began shouting that Lord Kudrow is coming. In the next moment, a massive elephant moved toward Julian. Everyone scared sat down on their knees. Only Julian remained standing out of foolishness. This seemed extremely harsh to the onlookers. In his view, people of no worth were worthy of bowing before him. Therefore, he ordered the elephant to crush Julian. But despite the powerful strike, the elephant's foot did not descend. He was stopped by Carnelon with a single hand. The elephant trembled with fear because such power could not belong to a human. In the next instant, Carnelon lifted his great sword and made a high leap. And in a single strike, he sliced the elephant into 2 pieces. Lord Kudrow fell to the ground out of fear. His face was filled with terror. Carnelon straightened his disheveled hair. And in a cold tone, he asked which despicable merchant dares to block a knight's path. Julian was about to remind him that he is not a knight. But Carnelon immediately signaled him to stay silent. Because the one opposite was also a knight. The merchant was trembling badly. He couldn't understand why any knight would deliberately block his path. Then a great sword was drawn toward him. Colonlin called him a foolish merchant, scolded him, and asked who had given him permission to speak to that worthless Mong. Julian was feeling extremely helpless. He couldn't understand how the situation had reached this point. On the other hand, Colonlin found all this extremely entertaining. Then he said coolly that luck was on his side. He noted that the knight was different from him, and he has a very generous heart. He told the merchant to beg for mercy. If he kneels, perhaps his knight will spare his life. But Kudrow neither asked for forgiveness nor showed any intention to bow. Instead, he accused Colonlin of attacking when he was completely on the defense, calling it a very despicable act. Hearing this, Colonlin moved the tip of his sword forward and in a cold tone asked what he wanted. He suggested that he could simply kill him outright. Hearing this, Kudrow fell silent immediately. Then he glared at Julian with a poisonous stare and said that he challenged him to a duel. He announced that 3 days later, at the Royal Duel Grounds, he would wait for Julian. While saying this, he fled from there in a pitiful condition. As he fled, he kept shouting that they should not dare to run away. Seeing this scene, Colonlin laughed loudly. He said how foolish he looked. But Julian was completely scared. He kept thinking that if a duel took place, what would happen to him? Colonlin, calming him, explained which duel Kudrow was referring to. It is actually a fight between the seals. Not among humans, saying that he sheathed his great sword. Cover yourself up. Colonlin thought that they should first find a place to live and be clean and tidy. But upon hearing this, Julian got flustered because his pockets were as empty as his face. In response, Carnelon said in a mocking tone that a ruthless wandering knight like him really needs to spend money. After that, they arrived at the city's only inn. As soon as they entered, people recognized them. Whispers started everywhere that Julian had almost lost his life today. The staff welcomed them with great care and said they would provide fully comfortable service. Julian was about to say something when Carnelon gave him a light shove. She could even tell from his little toe that he was about to say it again. He is not a knight. Then she, in a completely dramatic style, stood by him and said how terrible it was. Sir Knight has his wound reopened. In the next instant, she whispered through clenched teeth that she had asked him to pretend to become a knight, and that if he refused once more, the outcome would be terrible. Saying that, she smiled and told the staff to expedite the check-in, and on the other side she pressed Julian's neck to keep him quiet. After that, both of them reached their room. As soon as they entered the room, Julian looked distressed. He stuttered and asked whether sharing the same room wouldn't be inconvenient. Seeing his embarrassed face, Carnelon burst into laughter. She said she hadn't expected that Julian would have such dark thoughts. She reminded him that he had behaved the same way on the ship. Calling him foolish, she said that the very idea of staying apart from a seal is wrong. According to him, a seal for a knight is like his sword and shield. It should always be kept with you. Saying that, Carnelon started looking for something. 2 hours later, Julian was standing and eating an apple. Then he heard a lazy and comfortable voice. He saw that Carnelon had come out after bathing and was stretching comfortably. Julian's face turned red immediately. Julian asked why his clothes looked like that. Then it turned out that Carnelon had modified the inner clothes. She said that the old style doesn't suit him at all and that she has a very unique way of thinking. She then started teasing Julian, causing him to turn his face away in fear instantly. With a flushed face, she said that she was going very fast. And she wants to get off this ride. In response, Carnelon mockingly asked what a ruthless wandering knight is afraid of. But just as Carnelon was about to relax, she suddenly got up. She felt that a very powerful presence was nearby. Then a voice came from outside the door. The voice said that Sir Knight is inside. He also apologized for disturbing the rest and said that the knight wants to meet them. It turned out that when Carnelon arrived at Belsheba, Lay Seal had sensed his presence. She found this presence quite familiar and guessed who could have awakened her. He will definitely be the most powerful knight of the Empire. For this reason, Dietrich decided to go himself and see that knight before the royal duel. Carlian had heard the name Dietrich before. He was from the W in Mabanu's family, which was regarded as the Empire's famous knightly family. Although he didn't understand why they suddenly came, he didn't feel any killing intent. Nevertheless, Carlian carefully drew his greatsword. Meanwhile, Julian, upon hearing that the opponent had no killing intent, relaxed. So he immediately invited them to come inside without a second thought. Seeing this, Carlian was shocked, but by then it was too late to stop them. Fortunately, the two people who came inside were extremely courteous. They clearly stated that they had come only to meet that famous knight. Thanks to Carlian's coaching, Julian reluctantly accepted that he is the knight. However, the truth was that he didn't look like a powerful knight from any angle. Carlian immediately noticed this. Eventually, Julian seemed like a complete country bumpkin who had no knowledge of knightly etiquette at all. Carlian calmly said that his master is not linked to any nation. He is just a free knight in training. Therefore, he is very hesitant to reveal his family name. Julian immediately took charge, invited both to sit down and asked them to talk comfortably. But Julian's haste deepened Lai's suspicion even more. Now he was fully convinced that both of them were hiding something. Lai's gaze fell on Carlian's sword. The sword was not only heavy and ugly looking, but it also had no edge. Usually people think that such a sword cannot have any killing power. But that very sword could kill pigs, and had even sliced an elephant into 2 parts in a single strike. This made Julian very curious as well. He wondered if a sword's killing power is determined by stances and footwork. Upon this, Carnelon solemnly said that the real edge is not in the sword, but in the heart of the one holding it. He said that even the sharpest treasured sword cannot cut leaves if the heart of the one wielding it is weak. And regarding the sword, the most important thing is this. Its sword has no edge. In such a case, she can hug it and sleep. In summer, it stays very cool as well. The name of that sword was also very cool. Matsud Missile Carnel could sense that Lai quite liked its name. Then she arrived and her seal moved forward. Both were greeted in a formal way. They advised staying cautious during the duel. Carnelon laughed and replied that there is nothing like being cautious. For him, this small contest cannot even be considered a warm-up. In fact, at last night's gathering they had all sat together and drank. During that time, they became friends. The drunk Carnelon almost reveals that Julian is a fake knight. But somehow the issue got resolved. When the battle started, Carnelon went down to the dueling grounds. Meanwhile, Julian and Kyudo remained seated in the viewing stands. Kyudo's seal was named Gushak. He was a plump man whose body exuded a terrible odor. The smell was so unbearable to Carnelon that clear hatred reflected on her face. That very expression was enough to anger Gushak. He made his first attack by swinging his axe with full force toward Karnalin. A plume of dust rose, but when the dust settled, Karnalin was not there at all. She stood directly behind Gushak. He said with sarcasm, "Are you copying your master?" His movements are extremely slow. Gushak in anger swung the axe behind her. But nevertheless, the attack missed. Karnalin leapt into the air. She performed a smooth move and landed on the ground very easily. But the audience didn't like it. They started shouting, "Don't just keep running away, fight straight." Some people began to say that they had heard she is a high-level seal. But perhaps it was just a rumor. They didn't know that Karnalin didn't want to fight. She was actually irritated by the opponent's smell and didn't want to get close to him. Gushak attacked again. This time Karnalin didn't move far away. She made a slight sidestep, turned and delivered a casual whip kick behind Gushak. That simple kick was enough to throw Gushak onto the ground. Karnalin said that she wasn't running away. She was only keeping distance because of his smell. Hearing this, Gushak became even more angry. He lifted his axe, leapt into the air, and struck down with full force. But Karnalin stopped the attack with just one hand. She calmly asked whether he truly thought he could defeat her. Then she gave a slight shake and Gushak's axe flew away. In the next instant, Gushak fell to his knees and surrendered. Karnalin thrust her sword straight toward his heart. He said that he is in pain only because of that. Because he followed the wrong master. Upon hearing this, Gushak began to tremble. He felt that he was about to die. But Karnalin put the arrow back. She said that ending like this would be very boring. They need a spectacular ending. In the next moment, Karnalin started to chant magic. A massive energy blast surged straight towards the sky. The entire stadium was filled with excitement and people were cheering. They ran because she could also use high-level magic. But as soon as the chant ended, countless fireballs began falling from the sky. Colonel Karnalun herself was startled. She said that this was not her magic. The fireballs were falling on the entire dueling grounds without any discrimination. People ran in all directions in fear. But the chaos had become so great that fleeing was difficult. At that exact moment, a massive barrier emerged. Akoris had arrived just in time. And he rescued everyone. This gave people time to escape. At that moment, Nightlight shouted that Anime Country had launched a surprise attack. Saying this, she immediately jumped into the battle. And she quickly brought the situation under control. But her next decision surprised CL Akoris. She decided that she would handle the fallen city walls alone. She ordered Akoris to stop Anime's airstrikes because a defensive barrier was necessary to halt the siege weapons. Akoris had no choice but to comply. He was very concerned about Nightlight's safety. Akoris enchanted his weapons with defensive magic. Looking at the enchanted weapon in her hand, Lady Lai gave a command to Akoris. "If I die, find another master. No one knows what will happen in war. And when a person is in an unstable state, chaos spreads. Then stopping it becomes impossible." Akoris closed his eyes gradually. He bowed his head in respect. And then he quickly set out towards his battlefield. Lady Lai looked at the battlefield spread before her. There was no hesitation in her eyes, only determination. Without delay, she moved forward to give support. During this, Colonel Karnalun was eating snacks very comfortably. Then Julian suddenly asked why Lady Lai refused to take their help. The thing was that on the dueling grounds, Colonel Karnalun had already easily dealt with those enemy forces that had charged in midway. She became very angry because they had ruined her duel. For this reason, she had asked Nightlight whether she needed help. But everyone knows, when Lai became queen, she clearly refused to take help. Lai had said that she is a knight of Lispel, and she can handle her situation herself. She had told everyone earlier to retreat here because the inner city was safe for now. Colonel Karnalun said while explaining that knights are those who protect what they protect. They protect the thing they are protecting. They even stake their life for it. But it was also said that Julian is a free knight. Free knights are those who fight for their own ideals. He does not apply his principles to any country. Karnalun said further that it could be a narrow-minded heart, or a different way of knighthood. Asking a free knight to help your country is like that. Like telling them to set aside their principles for a short while. After that, Karnalun's tone changed. She said that being involved without strength is not help, but merely interference. Hearing this, Julian could bow his head in frustration. Seeing this, Karnalun smiled and said that she has a super strong seal, which does not match her abilities at all. As soon as Julian heard this, his eyes widened in disbelief. Karnalun smiled and confirmed his words. At the same time, on the battlefield, as Night Lai joined, the situation quickly came under control. But at a short distance, a figure was quietly watching Lai. His thoughts were that Lai had not changed at all. She looked frail before, and now she still does, but she is incredibly strong inside. That figure drew his sword and charged at Lai. Lai's sixth sense immediately sensed danger. He turned and tried to block the attack with his sword. That person smiled and said, "It has been a long time since our reunion." Lai held the sword with both hands. She blocked with full force and in anger said that he is a jerk. He also said that his sword is covered with poison. Nevertheless, Lai did not dodge. She blocked the attack with her arm instead of the sword, because at that moment only she could stop Jerd. If the fight had been longer, the situation would have gotten even worse. Therefore, instead of blocking, Lai thrust her sword powerfully into Jerd's kidney. This attack was not completely successful and only caused superficial damage. Nevertheless, Jerd was shocked. He did not expect that Lai would sacrifice herself to kill him. In the meantime, poison began to spread rapidly. Lai's body couldn't move. Jerd took the opportunity and prepared to deliver a fatal blow. But as soon as he moved forward, his seal warned him about the approaching danger with fear. In the next instant, something heavy fell loudly in front of Jerd. When the dust cleared, two figures appeared. Karnaloon stood holding her great sword and said that two grown-ups teaming up to attack one person was getting a bit excessive. Lai was very surprised to see Karnaloon. She didn't expect the wandering knight Julian to come to help. Karnaloon lifted her sword and said that she would now end this battle. Karina was shocked as soon as she saw Karnaloon because the enemy standing in front of her was the same one who had killed her previous master. In anger, Karina shouted that she would kill him and attacked with her fist. But Karnaloon blocked her easily with her great sword and said that this greeting was a bit too rough. When Karnaloon looked closely at Karina, something seemed familiar to her. She pushed Karina back and asked if she remembered what she had done before. Just as Karina was about to attack again, Jerd stopped her. With Karnaloon's arrival, her plans were completely disrupted, and now they were at a side tactical disadvantage. Therefore, Jerd decided to abandon the battle immediately. But Karina didn't want to give up revenge. On this, Jerd sternly asked whether she wanted to disobey his orders. And does she want to die as a seal? Karina was forced to obey Jerd's command. While leaving, she gave Karnaloon a hateful look and said that she would come soon to find her. Karnaloon responded nonchalantly that she would get ready and wait until then. Jared went away with his troops, and with that the battle ended. When Jared returned to Hemon's military camp, Commander O'Neill in anger asked him why he hadn't kept his promise. O'Neill said that he was about to break the enemy's side defenses. In response, Jared answered coolly that O'Neill himself had broken the promise. He explained that besides Lai and Icarus, there was another seal present, and it was the highest level seal. Hearing this, O'Neill was completely shocked. He asked in disbelief whether this meant that Lispel has another knight as powerful as Lai. As soon as Jared heard this, he scolded O'Neill, saying that he was truly useless, because he could not properly grasp the combat strength of the enemy. Then O'Neill realized that the rumors about the ruthless wandering knight perhaps meant that he had taken an oath of loyalty to Lispel. On this, Jared plainly said that the contract has now been cancelled. He retorted that O'Neill could spread this rumor, that the shore victory was ruined because of him. In the end, if the weak don't even get a chance to boast, it will be very cruel to them. On the other hand, Lai was now out of danger. But to fully cure the poison, it was necessary for her to return to Royal City as soon as possible. But the thing that was bothering her the most was that Jer appeared before her as a mechanical entity. Her mind kept replaying that only 2.5 years ago, Jer had spoken to her about her children. Then there was a knock at the door and her thoughts shattered. Some people came to meet Lai carrying a fruit basket. They said they have to go to Lispel's royal city because His Majesty wants to express gratitude to the two people who defended Belshava. Meanwhile, Julian suddenly confessed that he is not a knight. Rather, he is just a cook. He can kill Wells. Lai was not surprised to hear this. She said she had already guessed it. But his help for Lispel is an undeniable fact. Karnellen also advised from the side that she should accept the prize because she will surely receive a big reward. After that, Karnellen asked Lee if it seemed he and Jerd already knew each other. They fought like a death match, but it didn't seem like they really wanted to kill each other. Seeing Lee deep in thought, Karnellen quickly said that if he was uncomfortable, there was no need to discuss it. Then it turned out that Lee and Jerd had different masters. Both of them were already engaged. During this time, Julian wondered how they had become enemies. Then Karnellen suddenly sensed a dangerous presence. Ekis immediately stepped forward to protect Lee. In the next moment, the window began to shatter. Karnellen quickly grabbed Julian and dodged, while Ekis swiftly deployed a protective shield. Then Jerd appeared forward with his seal. He said he had come to settle the score and told Lei to raise his sword. Just as Karnalan was about to step forward to help, a fist suddenly came toward her. She barely managed to dodge. Nevertheless, her face was injured. Karina kept attacking without pause and pushed Karnalan out of the room. For a few moments, Karnalan was completely overwhelmed. Seeing Karina ahead, Karnalan got angry and asked if she was really serious. Meanwhile, Jerd, lifting his sword, said that the interfering people had now gone away, and asked whether this puppet seal could stop him. Then Lai gave Ekraz the order for Julian's protection. She had decided that she would finish this battle with Zerd herself. This arrangement was also surprising for Zerd. Zerd did not expect that despite being injured, Lai would remain so composed. But he was not one of those who show mercy to women. In his poisoned state, matching Lai was impossible. Zerd mockingly said that Knight Lai would die here today. Yet he hesitated to deliver the final blow. Seeing Lai come in, he mocked her and said how helpless she looked now. And what a waste this Blue Raptor title is. Saying this, he attacked again, and Lai's weapon fell from her hand. Lai was no longer in a state to fight and fell to her knees. In the very next moment, Jard's sword was thrust toward her. Now it really seemed like Lai was finished. But as soon as Jard raised the sword to strike, someone pulled his weapon away. Ikris had broken her resonance by disobeying Lai's order. Lai asked him in disbelief how he had done that. Ikris explained that seals must protect their master under any circumstance. Seeing this, Jard grew even more enraged. He continuously attacked Ikris's axe with his fists. Ekraz raised a defensive shield, but Jard's relentless punches broke it and Ekraz was badly injured. Just as Jard was about to strike him with a single sword strike, Lai suddenly appeared in front and pushed Jard backward. He said that she was the one he had been searching for. He is the one, and for this he will leave others behind. Lai's fighting spirit returned. Look, Jard suddenly lowered his sword. Then he started laughing loudly. He said that finally Lai showed the face he recognized. After that, Zerd sheathed his sword and left from there. But after he left, Lai saw something lying on the ground. It was Zerd's antidote. Now they were preparing to head towards Royal City, unaware of the fact that this journey would be extremely dangerous. In fact, far away in Hispink, Apar had already received an order from Oben Bahar to capture Karnalin alive. For this, he sent the country's highest knight, who possessed 2 highest seals. This force was almost overkill for capturing the current Karnalin. On the road, Karnalin saw that Julian was not uttering a single word throughout the journey. She began to feel guilty, fearing that she had gone too far. In fact, last night Julian had asked her whether his previous name was Juran. Karnalin had accepted this. She had refused to tell anything about her past. Julian hadn't asked many questions at that time. Karnalin thought that the matter had ended there. But that wasn't the case. She couldn't understand what to say. Then Julian suddenly started talking. He said in a weary voice that he was very tired. And he asked whether there would really be a village on the way. Karnalin realized that Julian was not angry, but just extremely tired. She immediately pointed forward and said that the village was only 5 km away. She assured that Julian would definitely reach it before he died. When they both finally reached the village, they were unexpectedly stopped. A child shouted that if they want to enter the village, they must first pay the toll. If they don't have money, they must give a sword that is longer than the child. Then a sword that is longer than the child must be given. Karnalin burst into loud laughter upon seeing the bluffing child. This action was not liked at all by Repel. She said angrily, "Stop laughing, because I am the cutest knight of the Blue Raptor, Lady Lee." She started laughing even more upon hearing this. She told Julian that he should learn from the little child's extraordinary spirit. Razel got angry about this. Karnalin further said that however crazy the world may become, underage children cannot become knights. If Ral kept lying, the knight standing there will be disciplined. Upon hearing that Julian is a knight, Respel's eyes lit up. She immediately asked Julian whether he is really a knight, and requested him to teach her archery. She said that she wants to become strong, because she wants to protect such people, whom she has to protect. Julian sadly refused his request. He explained that he is not actually a knight. Later, when they arrived, Karnalan asked Julian why he hadn't helped that child. Julian, feeling discouraged, said that after seeing the child's sincerity, he couldn't cheat him. He also said that he would no longer pretend to be a knight, because becoming a knight cannot be faked just with words. He added that being a cook is not bad either. Eventually, the next day, in exchange for helping with cooking, he got such a nice room. Karnalan, while cleaning the settled dust in the room, said with disgust that the room is indeed very splendid. Just to lighten the atmosphere, After that, Carnelon suggested having a drink. Julian mentioned that he has never drunk alcohol. To this, Carnelon said that nothing can be done then because he is still a child. And she will go to drink herself. Upon hearing this, Julian got angry. He said that Carnelon is the real child, who has lived for more than 2,000 years. He said that he can drink alcohol for his entire life. Upon seeing this, Carnelon gave a winning smile. After just 2.5 minutes, Julian began to feel the entire world spinning. Carnelon laughed and said, "Perhaps the world is not spinning but something else is." Upon this, Julian immediately replied that she is right. The world is not spinning but Carnelon is spinning. As soon as he said that, he fell flat on his face on the bar counter. He said that nothing is spinning now. Carnelon was regretting, thinking about how poor Julian's alcohol tolerance was. Then a man came up to her and began hitting on her. Carnelon told him straight up to get lost. But the man didn't leave and kept moving forward. Seeing this, Carnelon glared at him with murderous intent. The man got scared, he immediately backed away. As he was leaving, he said that he would return when Carnelon doesn't want to drink alone. After the man left, Carnelon saw that Inkuiper was continuously staring at her from a distance. As soon as Carnelorn's gaze fell on him, she immediately turned her face the other way. Carnelon became very puzzled. She thought that perhaps because she drank too much, she had become overly sensitive. After that, the narration mentioned that the most famous performer here is a singing fairy. It was said that all fairies are singers from birth. However, he is a male fairy. But his beauty is greater than that of female fairies. Because of this, Melkint became the star performer here. But his past is very tragic. And he is living in a slave status. For this reason, his songs are filled with deep sorrow. It has even been said that if a dog listens to his songs, it will start crying. It was said that despite his miserable life, there has always been a part 3 someone like that. Someone protected him and gave him a little hope. The next day, Julian is himself. He woke up from a hangover. The owner gives him an order in a stern voice to cook in the kitchen. Just as Julian was showcasing his cooking skills, Melvin suddenly enters the kitchen. And he requests to drink water. It is described that Melvin maintains his grace even while drinking water. Upon seeing him, Julian's face suddenly turns red. The thought occurs to him that this fair man is extremely beautiful. At that moment, Rachel suddenly arrives there, who had come to find Melvin's. He shouts angrily, showing his finger as soon as he sees Julian. He says that Julian is a fake knight and asks, "What challenge is happening with Melvin?" Fortunately, Melvin quickly explains. He explains that he had come to fetch water himself. Rajpal's aggressive attitude reduces a little. He says that if anyone bullied Melvin, he would stab them with his sword. After that, Rachel proudly says to Melvin. He says he will protect him as a knight, putting his honor at stake. Then he says goodbye to Melvin and happily goes to practice swordsmanship. But as soon as he reaches the door, he bumps into someone. The same man stands in front, who had earlier tried to harass Carnelian. He says while scolding Rajpal that we should go after checking the road. But as soon as his eyes fall on Melvin, he whistles and says that this is the same fellow from yesterday. He comes close and says in a nonsensical manner that there is something far more than elegance in him. Seeing this offensive behavior, Rachel gets very angry. He attacks that man from behind with his wooden sword. Even though the injury may not be severe, the insult was huge. In his anger, the man knocks Rachel to the ground with a single punch. Nevertheless, Rachel gets up, stumbling. Seeing this, the man drops his act. He draws his weapon and threatens. Do they know who he is? He calls himself Zari the Fires, who kills children without blinking, and then says that today he will cut off Rachel's hand so he can never swing his sword again. At that moment, Julian screams in anger. He says he is an imposter and asks, who gave him the courage to roam around as Jard? Julian reveals. He says he had seen the real Jard drawing out a demonic sword with his own eyes in Beersheba. Hearing this, the man makes a sarcastic remark and asks, does Julian really know that he was in that battlefield? He jokingly points out Julian as the third Red Cook. When called the third Red Cook, Julian drops his act. He says he is Julian, the wandering knight who saved Beersheba. Upon hearing this, the man starts laughing loudly. He says that if Julian is that knight, then he will stand on his head and eat poti. Then he says with a malicious smile that if this is true, then he will test this legendary wandering knight. But as soon as he is about to attack, suddenly two people fall from above. Immediately after them, Carnelian also jumps down. She lifts her great sword while looking at that man with disgust. and scolds him by calling him bastard. She asks how he dared to insult Sir Knight. Saying this, Carnelian kills him in a single blow. After that, she smiles at Julian and asks, why had he hidden his true identity? Seeing the events unfold before him, Julian becomes completely confused. And he asks Carnelian, what was all this? Then it is explained that these people were human traffickers, and the owners themselves had sold Melvin and Rachel to them. When Rachel thanks Julian for saving his life, then Julian is about to say this, that he was lying only to deceive the enemy. But Carnelian quietly puts her foot on his foot. Julian swallows his words, and Carnelian smiles inwardly. It goes through his mind that there is no need to hide the truth now. After 2.5 hours, Julian and Carnelian depart from there. He says goodbye to the owner, who was standing with a pig-like face. Julian thinks that Carnelian has changed, and now she doesn't randomly kill people. But Carnelian, feeling a bit sad, says that they really wanted to kill her yesterday. She spared her life only because she had agreed to free Milkvent. Even after gaining freedom, there was no place for Milkvent to go because her homeland had been destroyed long ago, and her people were scattered in different places. So Julian offers to have Milkvent go with him. Carnelian agrees to this, and she says that since knights are not very capable, having a fairy along would be better. But before leaving, Milkvent tells them to stay because she has some important work to finish. She returns after 2 hours as promised, and the three of them start their journey towards Royal City. Julian starts laughing after a short while. Meanwhile, Milkvent remains completely relaxed. She explains that her stamina is considered the best among fairies. Upon hearing this, Julian inadvertently nods his head. In the next moment, both Julian and Carnelian's faces clearly show surprise. They realize, and Milkvent tells them about her painful experience. She explained that she was originally a proper male fairy, but the house lady liked her. Because of this, the master had her castrated so that she would become a female fairy. Julian has no idea what castration means. Then Carnelian tries to explain it to him using an analogy. Her explanation is so terrifying that it gives Julian goosebumps. During this conversation, the three arrive at Royal City, where they are about to start a new life. Meanwhile, Rassel is already in tears, upset because he cannot imagine how to live without Milkvent. Meanwhile, the owner is flustered in anger over losing Milkvent. At that moment, a crack suddenly appears in the wall. In the next instant, three figures rush in loudly. A huge foot lands directly on the owner. A booming voice asks if he has seen the Redded seal. When Lai returns to Royal City and reports to the Emperor, he instructs her to wear a dress specifically for the upcoming ball. He also says that if he likes someone at the ball, he will use his royal authority to arrange a marriage. After putting on the dress, she does not look exactly like a knight. Seeing the wedding dress brings painful memories to her mind. She remembers. Lai's and Jared's wedding should have taken place by now. Lai remembers. She had once secretly entered that room, saw the wedding dress, and waited for the moment when she could wear it. But exactly one day before the wedding, someone came and told her that Jared had killed all her family members. And then he disappeared. Because of these memories, Lai doesn't feel like trying on the dress, and she leaves sadly. Suddenly on the road, she runs into Carnelian. Seeing the fairy with Julian, Lai becomes very curious. Julian quickly introduces Melkant and explains. He is as reliable a companion as Carnelian. Carnelian asks curiously. She asks whether Lai is going somewhere else. Lai informs her that she has bought a dress for the ball. She has bought a dress for the ball. Hearing this, Carnelian says, a bit disappointed. She cannot even wear a dress because she hasn't found the right master yet. At this, Lai immediately offers. They can all choose any dress they like. And she puts the bill on her account. Carnelian's eyes instantly lit up. She thanks Lai by holding her hand. But then Jared suddenly appears behind Lai. He asks whether he will be able to see the blue raptor in a dress at the ball tonight. Upon hearing this, Lai takes a battle stance and asks, how could he have the courage to come here? Jared calmly takes out the royal invitation and says that Lazenbell's hospitality is truly poor, where the invited guests are seated. Lay recognizes it by looking at the seal on the invitation. It is Crown Prince Ben's personal seal. A question arises in Lay's mind. Why the Crown Prince would invite her? She wonders if he invited her just to speak to her before the ball. Jarrett turns gracefully and says that whatever happens, he is really looking forward to tonight's ball. Saying this, he takes his leave. After that, Julian and his companions go to a dress shop. This is the first time for Julian when he wears such a formal dress. Therefore, he feels uncomfortable. But Melkant's compliments make him very happy. Melkant also wears a shining dress. Carnellen hasn't been able to choose yet, so Julian tells her to hurry. While going to the ball, Julian keeps secretly watching Carnellen over and over. When Carnellen catches him, he then panics. Melkant, being sensible, offers to lift Carnellen's dress. Julian also wants to help, but Carnellen forbids him. She says that he might not even last a few minutes. Soon they reach the castle. Julian is amazed by the splendid scenery inside. Then two attendants come running. They ask if he is the famous knight Julian, and if the beautiful lady standing with him is his love. Julian, panicking, waves his hand and denies. He tells them he carries Knight Lei's seal. Both attendants begin trying to pull Julian toward them to show him their daughter. And they start arguing with each other. At that same time, Knight Lei arrives. She asks what they are doing. After scolding both of them, she takes the three of them toward the ball. Carnellen asks Lei why she is not wearing a dress and why the royal atmosphere feels so tense. Even the attendees at the ball are wearing swords. Lei reluctantly explains that there is a succession problem currently ongoing in Leisenbell. The supporters of the Crown Prince and the supporters of the Second Prince are face to face. Lei also mentions that, although the Crown Prince is the legal next successor, the Second Prince's character is good, and he is also capable of handling state affairs. For this reason, many officials are supporting him. Upon hearing all this, Canillion says in a humorous tone that this is a classic battle between an incompetent elder brother and a capable younger brother. She calls it a completely overused story. During this, a mysterious woman is mentioned, who has been alive for tens of thousands of years. But she has never opened her eyes. She is also very sexy. The thing about the queen is that she is the one with the help of all seals. It is said that earlier Emperor Aben Barha promised that, whatever happens, he would definitely bring Juring before her. But what troubles her is that the thing that awakened Juring was not a test. She thinks that since she has the seal's assistance, she should know who he actually was. Then she asks herself why she feels this way, as if the whole world is deceiving her. Meanwhile, the ball finally begins. But Julian doesn't know how to dance, so Canellan starts teaching him right there. Meanwhile, in the background, Milk N's beautiful singing is playing. Canellan happily asks Julian if he also wants to dance. Canellan says while praising him that for a first attempt he is not bad at all. Then a servant arrived panting and informs that the king is calling them. Canellan is already excited to get the reward and says to Julian, "That let's go, my sir knight." On the other side, Zerd is roaming around the ball. Then suddenly he is attacked. The attacking knight lies. She asks him that he had once tried to defeat Lai, and now he has come casually to attend the ball. So what is his real plan? Jard smiles and replies that he has no interest in such a small country, and Lai should understand why he is doing this. He calls her Karina. Lai says in anger that she should not be called by that name because now she is the Knight of Lai. She also asks this question: why did Jard name his seal after its former name? When Lai forcefully calls herself Knight Lai, then Jard gets angry. He says, how long will she continue to be the dog of those fools who are endangering the kingdom? Jard also says that they are preventing Julian from becoming a greater knight. Jard warns Julian to just wait. Julian will realize how naive he was. After this, everyone arrives at the Great Hall. Canon expresses gratitude for Julian's help, but Julian humbly says he didn't do much. Canon becomes extremely angry upon hearing this. But the king isn't upset and instead invites Julian to become a knight of Leisenbell. Canon gets excited, thinking that becoming a royal knight will grant her a manor, farmland, and a comfortable life. However, Julian refuses the offer. Canon becomes completely furious upon hearing Julian's refusal. Julian turned down such a huge good fortune. The king tries to persuade Julian again. Then the Crown Prince suddenly stands up. The Crown Prince respectfully asks the king for permission to interrupt. He says that at this time, Leisenbell needs more stable royal authority than an excellent knight. He quickly asks the king who the next successor will be. He asks to be informed of the decision. The ministers supporting the Second Prince also step forward and repeat the same demand. Their behavior makes the king very angry. The king, in anger, orders everyone to stay silent and says that power struggles during the guests' welcome are shameful. He calls them greedy and says they have lost their dignity. The king says that he originally was going to announce the successor later, but announcing during the victory celebration could also be a correct option. After that, he designates Second Prince Lunz as the next successor. This decision is not accepted at all by the Crown Prince. He sits on his knees and requests the king to make him the successor again. But the king, scolding him, exposes his crimes, the assassination of political opponents and training of a private army. The king clearly says that if such a greedy person sits on the throne, it will lead to Legion Bell destruction. The crown prince becomes completely hopeless and loses his mental balance. Suddenly, he draws his sword and attacks his own father. But due to the large distance, she cannot reach in time. Out of compulsion, she, frustrated, pulls out her sword at the crown prince. The crown prince taunts her upon seeing her. He thinks that a royal knight mocking the throne is appropriate. He questions her loyalty. After that, he lifts his sword and declares himself the king of Legion Bell. And he orders the complete sealing off of Royal City. He announces it. He says that today he will kill all the treacherous ministers who oppose his succession. Immediately, countless soldiers rush in, and they surround all the people present there. At that same time, Zerd also appears beside the crown prince. The crown prince offers Julian a deal. He says that if Julian accompanies him, he will receive wealth and honor beyond imagination. But Julian refuses, because he will not work with the man who tried to kill his own father. Hearing this, the crown prince in anger draws his sword at Julian and calls him ungrateful. Then he orders Lei to kill Julian first. But Lei not only refuses to take action, rather she throws it onto the ground. And she announces her resignation from knighthood in plain terms. She announces that from this moment she will not follow any royal order, but will protect Legion Bell of her own will. Upon hearing this, the crown prince in anger orders his soldiers to kill Lai. But no soldier moves forward. They are not only afraid of Lai's overwhelming strength, but they are also not morally prepared to attack such a selfless knight. Seeing this, the crown prince becomes even more flustered. And he orders Jerd. He commands him to kill every person who opposes him. But Jerd responds in a very cold and fierce manner. He says that he had agreed only to attend the ball, not to become his underling. He also emphasizes his point. It is because of the crown prince that Lai finally gave up her knighthood. This change in the situation quietly makes Canillion happy inside. She thinks that now killing this crazy prince will become even easier. But then Melqueen senses an ominous presence. He opens the balcony door. In front of him, the entire city appears engulfed in flames. Lai immediately activates her seal. She commands that all the people be taken to a safe place. But at that very moment, the hall doors open loudly. The person entering is wearing a sari. He is a hunter of Canillion. Lai instantly recognizes him. But the thing she doesn't understand is this. There is a black cardinal whose power is greater than that of the ordinary king. And he only follows the orders of the first Apper. Why did he come here? The good thing is, Sword's gaze does not fall on Canillion. He directly orders the king who is there to come forward before him. The crown prince immediately steps forward and shouts. He declares that he is the king of Lysenbol. Then a minister comes forward and says, the second Prince Lunz is now the king of the country. Seeing the old king lying drenched in blood on the ground, Sword understands everything. She should release the flames and burn the crown prince alive. After that, he goes to the second Prince Lunz and says that he is now the king here, and he must bring the red-eyed seal in front of him. This is the order of the first Appar's Order 12, he threatens. If this is not fulfilled, he will kill the innocents one by one until he obtains the seal. Lai realizes the real danger of the situation. But Lai moves forward, because she cannot allow innocent people's murder in Lysenbell. Sword gets excited upon seeing this. He says that he is very curious. He wonders how the screams of a female knight sound. But in just one exchange, Lai goes into shock for 2 seconds. Because Sword neither draws his sword, and he doesn't even dodge. He blocks her directly with his arm. It clears up quickly. His arm is magical. Every time he stops an attack, it creates unbearable pain in Lai's arms. He says, making a short joke. He doesn't even need to draw a sword to fight Lai. During this, Seal Juliet and Justin release ice and fire magic. Lai can only struggle to defend. Shade takes advantage of this moment to launch a sneak attack, and he grabs Lai's neck directly. He says he'll now listen to the blue raptor's scream. But in the next second, a red light flashes. Jard suddenly attacks, and Sword gives a normal cut. He gives a cold warning that if Sword has any business with Lai, she should line up because Jard has been waiting a long time. Seeing Jarrett serious, Sword drops his contemptuous attitude. He finally draws his sword. Jarrett also gets serious because he had already heard rumors about this sword that no one could block more than 5 times. But in reality, this sword appears to be a tool that amplifies magic power when Sadi Sod releases magic from the soda. Jarrett feels a slight pain. Seeing this, Sword proudly says that the stronger the attack, the stronger the shock you will get back. He says that the magic will reject the entire body. But Jard doesn't believe that and charges directly. Justin immediately blocks the path with ice magic. Seeing this, Karina also takes action and breaks the ice defense with a single punch. But immediately Juliet releases fire magic and creates a defense. Meanwhile, Jard has already gotten quite close to the shade. But his attack is not only easily blocked, but he also gets hit by Sod's shock. He is forced to retreat. At that same time, Juliet and Justin start suppressing Karina together. Shade, teasing, says that he was very brave just now. But does he still have a debt? If his sword is blocked, he will receive a penalty. If it is not blocked, painless death is now his choice. At that moment, Lai suddenly comes to Jard's side. But even in such a dangerous and tense situation, Jard suddenly asks Lai, will she come to stay with him in the south after killing this man? Lai blushes slightly upon hearing these words. Lai told Jard to first deal with this man. After that, she will think about it. With that, they both attack. Cainlan had already grabbed Julian's hand and escaped from Laginable. While walking, Julian said that they should help Lai. Upon hearing this, Cainlan said angrily that the master should not interfere in others' affairs. She said that at this time, they are not in a position to help anyone. Always looking for him. Therefore, fleeing is the best help. If they get their hands on the Emperor, everything will be over. This confuses Julian a lot. He asks, why had she been sleeping for more than 500 years? Then why is the Emperor looking for her? Upon hearing this, Cainlan suddenly becomes sad. She says softly that perhaps even 500 years were not enough to escape that person's control. Meanwhile, Sade, holding his sliced mango, lets go of the leg anvil. Juliet asks him whether he needs reinforcements, but Sade refuses. He says that hunting those who run away in fear is more enjoyable. Soon the news of Seal's escape reaches the Empire. But the head of Imperial Security, Reed, does not get angry. Instead, he becomes happy. He doesn't want him to take all the credit. His adopted son suggests setting an ambush in the Pi Mountains because to avoid Oban 12 they only need to go to Darbar, which is not under Imperial influence. And the Pi Mountains are the only route. Meanwhile, after running non-stop for 2 days, Julian's stamina is completely exhausted. Their path really leads towards Darbar. But at their current speed, it will take a full 2 years to get there. Julian finds this amount of time far too long. Then Cainlan asks him if he knows why it is taking so much time. She says, the fish group always adjusts its speed according to the slowest fish. Julian does not understand its meaning. Then Canillion explains, shouting in anger. She says the journey, which should have been completed in a week, is now taking 2 years because of Julian. Julian shouts back, saying that he understands. Then he starts walking. But after walking just 2 meters, he stops and says, since it would take 2 years anyway, so can't we take a little rest? He clearly says that he is no longer going to walk with her. Melqueen's convince finally agrees to Canillion's rest. But she does not want to talk to Julian. Suddenly, a wrestling sound comes from the bushes nearby. And a wild boar jumps out. Julian, terrified, tightly grabs Canillion. Just as he realizes what he has done, but then a sound like the ground shaking comes, Julian looks up. And 2 tall orcs stand in front of him. Canillion immediately stands in front of both and asks, what business do you have? One of the orcs says. They say they are hunting the same beast. And they ask rudely, where did that beast go? They also call humans disgusting. Upon hearing this, Canillion gets very angry. She drops an orc onto the ground with her left leg. And she says that if they hate humans, they should not take it out on her. Then why are they taking out their anger on him? She shouts that she is not a human. She adds that they don't understand such a simple thing. Both orcs become scared upon seeing Cainlan's violent form. At that moment, a human runs in and shouts. They demand that the brutal treatment of my friends stop. But as soon as his gaze lands on Cainlan's breathtaking beauty, he is stunned. He slides down onto his knees and sits. And he tells his name. He asks her name. Seeing this, Julian becomes completely speechless. He doesn't understand whether he came to solve the case or to do something else. The situation then gets even worse, since she suddenly grabs Cannel's hand. This act startles Cannel, and she immediately pulls her hand back. Reflexively, she hides behind Julian. Seeing this makes it clear that she is vulnerable. That in front of such people, Canillion becomes more helpless, since they find out that Julian is Canillion's master. So they in anger call him shameless and level accusations. He has kept such a beautiful woman as a slave. On hearing the word slave, Canilian's anger erupts. But in Sia's eyes, her anger also seems charming. While pondering this, she receives a strong uppercut from Si. Julian awkwardly laughs upon seeing Oxox running away. Technically, he had already saved his friends. Someone says, should they stop Lady Cainlan? The answer is that they should stop, but no one can stop it. The story goes on to say that a girl had been sleeping for 20 years. Everyone thought that she would never wake up. But the man was completely confident that she would surely wake up. When the villagers force the man to sell the girl, he returns and threatens anyone who harms Amaralis's Iqbal. Whoever touches Amaralis's Iqbal will meet a terrible fate. Leto, a king, asks his son, what has happened to him? Meanwhile, Canilian, with a friendly smile, says to Sio as he departs, it's nothing, just a little love from a beautiful lady. Sio quickly introduces everyone. Although unimaginable, the fairy and the lady accompanying him are extremely beautiful. Under the pretext of welcoming the guests, Leto gradually sent the villagers away. When everyone was drinking tea, Canilian tasted the leaves and said they were Zulu Hall's tea leaves. It was the same famous vacation destination that disappeared more than 100 years ago. Hearing this, Leto got angry and asked whether Canilian was a seal. Canilian happily confirmed this, and while praising Leto's eyes, said his gaze was even better than his son S. But Sio didn't even know the meaning of seal. He casually said that seals are just like slaves. Upon hearing this, Canilian became seriously angry. Then his father, while explaining, says to Sio, a seal is not a slave, rather it is a being of that nature, who won with Fed's guidance to awaken his trainer. As soon as he hears this, he immediately kneels down in front of Canilian. Moved, he says that their meeting was arranged by Fed, and he wants to awaken him. In the next moment, Cainlan kicks her away. She says angrily, she says that she is already awake. Not a fool, Cainlan is the most. The queen is of this opinion. Why the villagers wanted to sell the girl, then Leto explains. He says that the orcs living near the village often prey on the wild war pigs raised by the villagers. This results in conflicts. Melkint understands this and says, he says that from the orcs' perspective, it is hard to understand this. The wild boar paddock is property of humans. For this reason, the villagers called the mercenaries so that the orcs could be suppressed. But the mercenaries kept pressing for payment continuously. Out of compulsion, the poor villagers thought of selling Amarlis. Cainlan says this upon hearing it. She wants to see that seal. Under guidance, everyone goes to Amarlis's room. After observing for about 2 minutes, Cainlan says, she says that this seal is very strange, because usually even a sleeping seal gives off some aura. But from this child, she doesn't feel any aura or power at all. Someone standing nearby says excitedly that whatever happens, she will definitely awaken the pure and delicate Amarlis. Then Julian says in a serious voice, he says that before a seal awakens, one should not guess its personality. He explains. He says that when Cainlan was asleep, he also found her very pure and delicate. He cannot even finish his sentence before Cainlan comes in front of him. And she asks in a harsh voice, what did you just say? Julian, terrified, becomes completely silent and walks away. Then Lady Canilian asks Julian. That is what she thinks. She believes anyone can awaken the seal. At this, Julian points towards Julian and says, that such a weak person can awaken it. Then why not? Lady Canilian says angrily. How could she have the courage to belittle his master? Even though Julian may not seem impressive, he is the one who super powerfully awakened it. Julian feels that people are underestimating him, but he suppresses his anger. He does not have the courage to look toward Lady Canilian and simply says it outright. Cooks are also great. Then suddenly a voice comes. Please tell me your name, Julian asks, confused. He wonders why she is asking again. My name is Julian, did she forget? Melkint says. He clarifies that this question was not asked by Lady Canilian. Everyone sees that Amarlis's eyes are open. While looking at Julian, she keeps demanding that he give her his name. Seeing this, everyone goes into shock. Julian, panicking, says that he is just a cook. There is no powerful knight, still the girl keeps asking him his name. He jumps into the middle and says, his name is Amarlis, and he was waiting for that person. But Cainlan completely ignores him and then turns towards Julian. Seeing this, he gets extremely angry and makes an accusation. He claims that Julian intentionally approached him and tried to steal Amarlis. Julian, understanding the situation, looks towards Cainlan and says that it would be better to run away first. Saying that, he rushes out of the room. Cainlan immediately goes after him. Melvi politely says farewell to the village chief, and he goes behind them. In the back room, only Amaryllis remains. He keeps mumbling Julian's name. The fleeing Kainlan reassures Julian. She says that the first appearing Odinbara is already chasing them. She can smell alcohol. Upon hearing this, Julian becomes excited and says that there is no issue that a single drink cannot solve, and if it can't, then another drink. Saying this, he dashes towards the tavern with excitement. Seeing Julian leave, Melkant tells him a small secret. She says that people misunderstand. Only humans can awaken the seals. In fact, only the one who has the power can manifest the seal. He who possesses the power to control it. Upon hearing this, Melkant becomes even more confused and asks what about Master Julian then? Upon this, Kainlan says while thinking, that power can have many meanings. Perhaps even this very weak master is hiding some such power, which she does not yet know about. When Julian reached the tavern, the server told him in part 4 that the alcohol there has now run out, because all the alcohol has been bought by those mercenaries who have come to bring the orcs under control. Hearing this, Julian became disappointed. At the same time, Kaelin and Melkant also arrived at the tavern. As soon as the mercenaries saw them, they got excited immediately. They started saying among themselves that at such a remote place, they would find so many beautiful ladies and fairies. They had never even thought of this. The mercenaries rudely told Kainlan to pour drinks for them and accompany them. At the same time, they threatened Julian, saying that if he didn't quietly leave his companions, they would kill him. But Julian neither got scared nor backed up. He went straight to the mercenary leader and snatched his sword, and said, if you have the courage, then kill him and prove it. Seeing Julian's aura, the mercenary leader got completely frightened. He fell on the ground. He started to back away in fear. He asked in a trembling voice whether Julian was a knight. Julian, casually twirling his sword, asked in a cold voice why he was saying such things, even though he had already died. After a second of thought, the mercenary leader immediately decided to flee. He ran away from the tavern, claiming that they didn't want trouble, so they were leaving. As soon as the mercenaries left, Julian sat down on the chair. He said that he was truly very scared. Seeing all of this, Kainlan was completely shocked. She asked Julian whether he had gone mad, because he had never acted like that before. Julian smiled and said that he just wanted to teach a lesson to those people who were treating him casually. He also said that earlier it was always Kainlan who helped him teach others a lesson. Upon hearing this, Kainlan blushed a little, but she turned away and said, what kind of master is that? She called Julian a weird person. At that moment, the server arrived and thanked Julian. He said that because of Julian, they were able to chase away the freeloaders. In gratitude, they gave Julian good food and drinks. During this time, Kainlan's demeanor towards Julian also became unusually gentle. After the food was finished, Julian prepared to move forward towards Derek Art. Then Kainlan wore the same clothes she had worn when she was first discovered. She asked Julian to say his name. Julian thought it was a joke and told her to stop. But suddenly Kainlan grabbed his hand, and in an urgent voice she asked again to say his name. The sentence began to echo in Julian's mind. He woke up from his dream with a scream. At first he thought it was just a dream, but then he realized that someone was holding his hand. Then he heard the scariest words, "Please, my name." Julian got scared and started avoiding saying his name. Because of this, she remained stuck in the state of seal contract formation and couldn't think properly. Seeing Julian's awkward condition, Carnelian started teasing him and said that she would go and tell Amaryllis that Julian is there. Now Julian became completely confused. On one hand, Amaryllis was chasing him and demanding his name. Carnelian thought that Julian should give a name to the seal, even though this would be unfair to the seal because a seal awakened without a contract could end up in danger. Finally, Julian revealed the real reason for his avoidance. He said that he is her master, and his power has already weakened. He doesn't want it to happen with any other seal either. Hearing this, Carnelian fell silent. She hugged Julian and gently explained that even the world's most powerful master is a seal. There is no guarantee of peace. She also said that meeting a weak master is often unfortunate. But before she could finish speaking, Julian pulled away from her and said that she must run away now. Carnelian smiled and said that she has not become unfortunate. Meanwhile, Carnelian's worry proved to be correct. Amaryllis was lost in the forest and was captured by a group of mercenaries. Seeing her beauty, they made a plan to sell her. But when Amaryllis saw that Julian was not in front, she quietly turned and left. The mercenaries thought that she was mentally unstable, and they formed evil intentions against her. Meanwhile, Julian was looking for a place to hide when SEO suddenly appeared and started asking about Amaryllis. Julian immediately said that he had been avoiding her for a day. Hearing this, SEO became upset because he hadn't seen Amaryllis for a day. Seeing SEO's condition, Carnelian explained to him that once a seal recognizes a master, and she said plainly that even if SEO finds her, Amaryllis will not hear his voice. But SEO replied that he doesn't know anything about the seal, and not even what Amaryllis' future will be. He said that he is completely sure of only one thing, that the being he loves. He will try his utmost for her even if it hurts himself. After saying this, SEO set off without stopping to search for Amaryllis. Carnelian shrugged helplessly and said that she never imagined anyone else would be found here who would make him feel as depressed as Julian. But then he heard Julian say that he would also go along to find Amaryllis. Carnelian asked him what he would do after finding her. Julian answered plainly that he would return her to SEO and then keep running away himself. At that moment, Melkant suddenly appeared and said that it means they no longer need to hide. Meanwhile, SEO saw footprints on the ground. He immediately started chasing them and soon reached the mercenaries who were going to harm Amaryllis. SEO immediately ambushed a mercenary and yelled angrily for all of them to stop. The bald mercenary leader instantly ordered his subordinates to teach him a lesson. A subordinate cursing approached SEO, but no one had expected that SEO would suddenly launch an attack. In a single strike, he tore his scalp open. The bald leader became even angrier because of his excessive talking. He ordered the rest to attack all at once. However, the SEO, who had undergone 2 years of rigorous training, not only defeated all the subordinates with his fast and agile movements, but also beat the leader so badly that he was sitting on the ground begging for mercy. Yet SEO was not about to let him go. He could not tolerate that those people wanted to do such a disgusting act with a child. But then someone from behind thrust a knife into his chest. The bald leader stood up again and said that SEO doesn't know his limits, so he will die very quickly. Saying that, he repeatedly stepped on SEO. Then he shouted at the subordinates lying on the ground, telling them to get up. SEO, who was not completely dead yet, began crawling tremblingly towards Amaryllis. The bald leader, mocking him, said that even while dying he wants to be a hero in front of a woman. Then he threw SEO near Amaryllis and said that now he will see what happens with his favorite person. But then a miracle happened. Amaryllis turned her head and talked to SEO. SEO had thought many times about how it would feel if Amaryllis talked to them. But at that moment, they could neither hear anything nor speak. At that same time, Julian, Carnelian, and Melkant arrived there. Melvin immediately saw SEO dying. Julian shouted angrily, asking what they had done. The mercenaries recognized Julian and said that this is the man who had tried to kill them yesterday. First, they thought of attacking Julian. Carnelian swung her great sword and killed all the small goons in an instant. She said in a cold voice that she didn't want to help SEO. But these people deserved to die. The other mercenaries were frightened when they saw Carnelian's terrifying combat power. And they started to flee. Carnelian wanted to pursue them. But Julian stopped her and begged to use magic to save SEO. Carnelian said she couldn't do anything because SEO's chest had been stabbed repeatedly, and her abilities were limited only to destruction and slaughter. She didn't have the talent to save people. Julian began to feel completely hopeless. Her hands were pure white then, they were placed on SEO's chest. This was Amaryllis. She had a magical ability. If she placed her hand on a dying person's chest, they could become alive. SEO came to his senses. SEO was left wondering how he survived. He looked at the smiling Amaryllis and asked whether she had saved him. But Amaryllis, instead of answering, said something that shook Carnelian. She said, "Please tell me your name." Carnelian was in shock because the seal's contract binding object had changed. SEO was very happy to hear her speak truly and gave his name. Amaryllis looked at him with hopeful eyes and said that now he should tell her his name. Amaryllis held his small hand and lovingly said that her name is Amaryllis. After that, Amaryllis said that from now on, SEO is her tamer, and she will serve him. Hearing this, SEO became emotional and hugged Amaryllis. He said that seeing her smile makes his whole life meaningful. Seeing all this, Carnelian said in a tired manner that this is becoming too cheesy. After that, Carnelian, after seeing Amaryllis' ability, expressed admiration. She said that saving a dying person is truly incredible. Hearing this, a question arose in Julian's mind, and he asked whether Amaryllis is even more powerful than you. Carnelian calmly explained that the ability to turn people into ash and the ability to bring a person back to life from ash. Which of the two is more powerful? It is not easy to say. She also said that Amaryllis is currently in the First Awakening. And this is worth noting, because she doesn't have any past. Carnelian acknowledged that knowing too much also becomes a kind of trouble. One who knows nothing lives more happily. Hearing this, Julian became even more confused. He said that he doesn't quite understand how much Carnelin actually knows. She said that she is a seal, who knows that she is a chef, and yet she is happy living with Julian. Over there, the ball mercenary who had fled suddenly started laughing crudely. After calming down a bit, he suddenly realized who that woman actually was. Her subordinate said that she had never seen such a scary woman before. At this, the bold man scolded her and told her that she is a red-eyed seal. She is being hunted throughout the Hesperia territory. He said that a huge reward can be obtained just by reporting her. And now they can not only earn money, they can even take revenge instead. Unaware of all this, Julian was troubled about an ingredient at this time. Even as a chef, he couldn't figure out how to use it. CEO made fun of him about this. Julian angrily said he wasn't a chef from a big city. Rather, he's from a small fishing village, and he's most skilled at cooking fish. Upon seeing their bickering, Carnelin felt happy because she felt so relaxed after a long time. But in the next moment, she became serious and said that there's no time for jokes now. Then Amaryllis suddenly asked a question to Carnelin. She asked what the purpose of creating the seal is. Carnelin realized that Amaryllis has forgotten things related to her birth. She said that because of some rules, Amaryllis cannot tell her this, and that is better. She forgets everything. Carnelin told Amaryllis that she should not worry about these matters and should live each day happily. Carnelin went on to say that his master sometimes seems like an idiot. He will die one day, but Amaryllis must continue living with those memories. Upon hearing this, Amaryllis began to cry. Carnelin immediately, while calming her, said that it would not happen right away. Since then, he arrived there. Amaryllis, panicking, said that Carnelin had said that he will die one day. Before she could say anything else, she placed a finger on his lips. He said lovingly that it would never happen, and he can never leave her. After seeing this extremely intense scene, she was comforted by Carnelin. Then the village chief returned. His face was sad. He said that there had been a meeting in the village. The villagers were insisting that it is necessary to control the orcs, because if they can attack the wild bears, they pose a danger. Then they can also attack the village. The CEO said that orcs are a proud race. Until their territory is intruded upon, they will not attack the village. The village chief agreed with this, but he said that scared people prefer to bow down to others rather than understand them. He said that cowardly people take up weapons, while brave people extend a hand. One day he will fully understand this truth. But C did not give up. He decided that he would become the person who extends a hand. He decided to go to Oak Village. The village chief advised him to rest because he was still injured. C said that Amaryllis is with him. Therefore, he is perfectly fine. The village chief breathed a sigh of relief and said that he would also try to convince the villagers. From the next day, he called Julian and the others to go together. Carnelin didn't like that at all. Nevertheless, he quietly reminded Julian that their condition was not like that. They kept wandering openly. Julian expressed concern that the mercenaries might return for revenge. He said that they would only help this time and then flee. Carnelin gave his reluctant consent. Soon, all the orcs arrived at the village. Julian, after seeing warlike orcs, said that they were completely different from the orcs seen in the city. Melquin explained that enslaved races always live in a feeling of powerlessness. When they arrived at the orc leader's tent, they met the Noisio leader who has been alive for a long time. Noisio is very upset after seeing this. The orc chief was surprised that humans usually consider seals as playthings. Sio is treating that seal like a lover. From then on, smiling, the orc chief said he introduced Amaryllis as his lover. He politely requested that they grant a land blessing to that girl. Seeing all this, Carnelin and the others were stunned. Amaryllis was still a little girl. The orc chief reminded them that seals can never be lovers because they cannot reproduce. Sio said plainly that he doesn't care about anyone. After Amaryllis gave a blessing, she should have discussed returning the orc chief's net. But Sio refused. He said that he does not want to return the net. He has come to apologize for the villagers' rudeness. Upon hearing this, even the chief is stunned. None remained. He looked at Carnelin and said that it had already lived a very long life despite being hundreds of years younger. But this is the first time that someone has asked for his forgiveness. Upon hearing this, Sio moved forward, held out his hand toward the chief, and said he wanted peace. He hoped that both could live together as before. He repeated his father's words, "Frightened people take up weapons, while brave people extend their hands." Upon hearing this, Julian quickly whispered into the chief's ear that the true meaning of that proverb was not about extending hands. At that moment, the orc chief suddenly asked Julian, "Are you the tamer of that seal?" Julian said it was strange. Because Julian doesn't look very powerful. Still, how did he manage to get a contract with Carnelin? Julian hesitated and said he didn't know either. He definitely said that, for now, he is not a good or helpful tamer for Carnelin. The chief stayed silent for a moment. Then he asked if Julian had regret about this contract. Julian said he cannot give a clear answer to this question right now, but he hopes that after 2.5 years, when this question is asked again, he will be able to answer without any regret. He said he would try his best for that. These words shook them to the core. He wondered whether this was the same weak Julian. Seeing the two humans trying so hard for the seals, the org chief decided to stop having a negative view of humans. However, he still couldn't understand what it meant to be the owner of the seal. Nevertheless, he decided to try to understand it. He excited grabbed the chief's hand and praised him, calling it a brave work. In the meantime, a panicked guard rushed in. CO said that the human army has surrounded the entire village. All villagers have been bound. CO was shocked upon hearing this. He thought that the mercenaries had returned for revenge. In reality, it was Red, the head of the Imperial Security Department. He said that he did not want to let Sod take all the credit. Therefore, as soon as the Red ID Seal news arrived, he sent the army. CO quickly said goodbye to OG Chief. Carnelin and Julian also decided to depart. As OG Chief left, she said to herself that she would now become a brave person and reach out to humans. The commander was questioning the village head about the Red ID Seal. The village head repeatedly said that he had never seen such a seal. Bold Man threatened him, saying that he was lying, because he himself had seen the Red ID Seal. The village head still stood by his claim. The commander caught him and said that if he didn't hand over the seal, he would kill the villagers one by one. Bold Man drew his sword on a villager. To save the innocent villagers, the village head had to reluctantly reveal Carnelin's location. As soon as the commander received the information, he told Bold Man to leave the villagers and ordered him to show the way to the orc village. An order was given to kill the remaining villagers. Just as Bold Man advanced to kill the village head, his sword suddenly broke. In the next moment, Carnelin cut him in half. Carnelin, mocking, said that her popularity is of no use to any scoundrel. Wherever she goes, men begin to chase her. The commander did not expect that Carnelin would come forward alone. But Carnelin said that she did not come to fight alone. In the next moment, a voice came from afar. A large group of orc warriors came running. As soon as the orc warriors joined, their army began losing quickly. Seo and the others returned and freed the captured village head and villagers. The commander began trying to escape. Carnelin smiled and said, "Do you think you can get away from his hands?" Just as Carnelin was about to kill him, a black shadow suddenly appeared in front and pushed Carnelin back. Carnelin was startled and began to wonder what this strange blob was. She thought that the one in front would be very heavy and slow. But in the next instant, it vanished and suddenly came close to her. Carnelin quickly blocked and slipped about 2 meters backwards. He felt that the opponent's speed was beyond his imagination. The commander bragged that this is enhanced by magic. We are magical heavy infantry soldiers. They can forcibly surpass their physical limits due to magical enhancement. It was said that even though they are fragile, they persist. We magical heavy infantry soldiers do not survive for long, but we were more than enough to kill the seals or knights. Soon Carnelin is surrounded on all sides. The magical heavy infantry surrounded them. At that instant, he realized that the situation had deteriorated greatly. Because there is something, the magical heavy infantry moved directly towards Julian. The orc warriors tried to stop them, but every orc was cut down in a single strike. The magical heavy infantry kept moving toward Julian without stopping. At that same time, Carnelin was. She was fighting the magical heavy infantry and was unable to save Julian. As soon as his attention was distracted for a moment, there was. The magical heavy infantry hit him hard. Several more followed. The magical heavy infantry collapsed onto him. The situation had become delicate. Then Carnelin unleashed all her strength. She completely unleashed the lightning power. The wave of electricity spread in all directions. But the heavy infantry only stepped back a step and a half. Carnel became severely weakened. When she saw that, she acted. Since the heavy infantry suffered virtually no damage, it had to change its target. She thought that she first needed to eliminate those majors that existed. We are controlling the heavy infantry. But meanwhile, Julian got into even greater danger. Carnel ran towards Julian with full force. But again, the heavy infantry blocked its path. She somehow killed one, but it revived immediately. The heavy infantry came forward. Carnel was severely injured. She said in her heart that she could not save her master again. Just at that exact moment, The heavy infantry was about to kill Julian and Carnell. Suddenly, the sky turned black. A powerful lightning bolt fell down. The heavy infantry came over and saw that he was holding a lightning rod. Lightning kept falling continuously. The heavy infantry members fell one by one. Carnell looked around in surprise. She tried to find out who used such powerful magic. Finally, his gaze fell on a man standing far away, from whose body electricity was emanating. When everyone saw him, it showed on everyone's faces. The queen was amazed. It was none other than the village chief. It turned out that the village chief was actually a high-level mage. No one could even sigh in relief because Melquint sensed a dangerous aura. Suddenly, a fireball fell from the sky. By fate, Carnellin blocked it. When the flames subsided, 3 people slowly emerged. They were the ones who had been chasing Carnellin: Sid, Juliet, and Justin. Enthusiastically, the commander told Sid that the village chief is Maz. Besides the red eye seal, the rest are nothing special. He was busy praising himself when Justin immediately froze him in ice. Sid said in a cool tone that he would deliver his good words to Aperer. Having said that, Sid smashed the commander into pieces. The majors standing nearby started running, shouting. But they couldn't even take 2 steps. Justin also turned them into ice sculptures. After that, Juliet unleashed fire magic. All the mages turned to ash in an instant. Carnellin felt immense pressure upon seeing this terrifying power. Sid said coolly that he had finally captured the red eye seal. Julian, upon seeing Sid, angrily asked what he had done with Lai. Sid, teasing, said that it wasn't much. But his screams were worth hearing. Upon hearing this, Carnellin stood in front of Julian. He said that seeing Sid's condition, it seemed that his victory was not easy and his journey must have been very difficult. Sid's face instantly turned black. He gave orders to Juliet and Justin to kill all interfering people. At this critical moment, the village chief took further action. He created a protective barrier with all his strength. But he could only save Carnellin and the CEO's group. The Oggs and the rest of the villagers were mercilessly killed. This was not seen by the CEO. He emerged from the barrier. He immediately attacked Sid. But Sid merely drew an ordinary sword. He easily defeated the CEO. Sid was about to kill him. Emeraldes suddenly appeared. She took the war upon herself. Julian and Carnellin were left stunned as Emeraldes fell. The CEO had to pay a heavy price for his overconfidence. He was completely broken. He kept calling out Emeraldes continuously, but she didn't wake up. His uncontrolled screams excited Sid even more. Sid taunted, saying that this was all they could do. Meanwhile, something was changing inside Julian. He had become extremely angry, and unintentionally became deeply linked with Carnellin. At that very moment, Carnellin's power also increased. Carnellin said that this was the first time. He felt his master's emotions so deeply. Saying this, he fell onto Sid with full force. At the right moment, he pushed the CRD back. He was about to kill the CEO. Carnellin did not miss the opportunity. He, maintaining his advantage, continued the attack. Sid spun his sword. He easily stopped Carnellin's attack. He mocked Carnellin, saying that she had come to die herself. Carnellin, in anger, said that today she would also cut his cursed sword and turn it into pieces. With each of Carnellin's attacks, cracks began to appear in Sid's sword. Seeing that, Carnellin seized the moment and attacked straight from the front. Sid also tried to kill Carnellin, but Carnellin deftly evaded. Sid told the queen that she is not even that powerful. Then why hasn't Carnellin become weak so far? Then his gaze fell on Julian, who was standing far away. At that time, a very special aura was emanating from Julian's body. Sid immediately understood that this was the reason for Carnellin's power. He immediately ordered the 2 seals to kill Julian. As soon as the order arrived, both seals released ice and fire magic toward Julian. When the magic was about to hit Julian, Carnellin panicked. But she couldn't reach in time to save him. At that exact critical moment, the old village chief interfered again and stopped the lethal attack. However, this sudden change broke the connection between Julian and Carnellin. Seizing this opportunity, Sid attacked Carnellin. He taunted, asking if he was now worried about his timer. And where did his enthusiasm go? Carnellin attacked again, but this time she clearly felt her strength diminishing. On the other hand, Sid also knew that the longer the fight went on, the more damage he would take. So he began to push forward with all his strength. Seeing Carnellin struggling, Sid became even more excited and said that her expression at this moment was worth watching. But then Carnellin smiled. She explained that now Juliet and Justin cannot use their powers. Upon hearing this, Sid's face turned black. He said that the biggest trait of the seals is this: they cannot deny any order the master gives. Karnaloon was confused upon hearing this. In the next instant, Seed, laughing oddly, said that even if he had to give up his own life for it. Upon hearing this, Karnaloon was startled and asked what he was going to do. On the other side, Juliet suddenly burst onto the battlefield. The village chief was subdued. At that moment, Justin appeared. He grabbed the village chief's hand and stopped his magic. The village chief's hands were frozen by ice magic. The village chief realized that Justin was going to die with him. In fact, right nearby, Juliet had finished preparing the killing magic. After struggling for 2 seconds, the village chief launched a lethal attack. He missed, a sharp explosion occurred. The village chief and Justin both fell far away. Juliet's brief hesitation gave the village chief serious doubt. When Seed was about to give orders again, he felt that his connection with the seals was weakening. It could break at any moment. So he immediately ordered that the opponent be killed before he could recover, even if it meant exhausting all his energy. Upon hearing the order, both seals were startled. But after hesitating for a little while, they raised their hands. The most dangerous combination technique is the ice and fire duel, which they used. At that time, one of the village chief's hands was already disabled. It seemed that he would succumb to magic. He was completely calm. In the very next moment, magical light began to emanate from his body and magical butterflies fluttered. The village chief raised his remaining hand. The butterflies flew, collided with the seal's attack, and neutralized all the magic. Both seals, having exhausted all their energy, fell unconscious right there. Seeing this, Seed also stopped the fight because he realized that his goal could not be fulfilled today. Then the village chief suddenly asked whether both children were human. He explained that the girl showed a glimmer while attacking the boy, which never happens when seals are under the command of a skilled knight like Seed. Seed laughed and said that they were failed creations. He claimed that he has torn apart countless seals and found that they are not different from humans. If there is no difference between humans and seals, then they can be transformed into each other. Thus, humans can be turned into seals. Hearing this, the village chief shouted in anger that he had made seals by joining the two children. Eventually, because of Kernelin and the village chief, Seed had to retreat temporarily.